Israeli Consul General Ido Aharoni. Ambassador, great to have you here. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
What are you expecting out of this meeting between Benjamin Netanyahu and the president today?
I think the goal is to make sure that Israel's position is clear. Israel's position is that while the first stage of the plan was successfully implemented, the end of hostilities, the release of the hostages, the return of the dead bodies, the second phase has to keep in mind and safeguard Israel's main and primary security concern, which is Gaza without Hamas. If the outcome is that Hamas remains in one form or another in power in Gaza, then we haven't done it. We haven't done a thing. And so that's the most important element, the most important item on Prime Minister Netanyahu's agenda.
Getting in that international stabilization force was critical. We heard in those early days we needed them in. That did not happen. That was critical, and that has been certainly a loss in time. And now structure for Hamas to dig in again.
Correct. And I think Hamas is using the fact that the implementation of the second phase is not progressing as speedily and quickly as people thought, and they're trying to establish presence again as a governing body in Gaza. This is bad news, not just for Israel or the United States or the Arab countries, but primarily for the Palestinians themselves.
Sure. And we know now we're hearing the saber rattling from Iran this morning, too. The U.S. very successful, of course, at knocking out Iran's nuclear program with that Operation Midnight Hammer. And the president has said that he is willing to go back in if there's evidence. And there has been some reporting that the Chinese have been in there helping Iran build back. Do you believe that Benjamin Netanyahu will present that evidence to President Trump today?
If the evidence exists, there's no doubt in my mind it will be presented. But we don't really need evidence because we already know Iran's intentions. The most important thing is their intentions. The fact that they declare that they're in a state of war is irrelevant because they have been in a state of war with the West for decades now. And they were arrogant enough to attack Israel twice in 2024. Israel responded handing Iranians a major, massive blow, both on their nuclear facilities as well as their conventional capabilities. And I think that the Iranians know what's waiting for them if they will continue down this path.
Mm-hmm. And to Gaza, once again, before we move on to the talks between Russia and Ukraine, what will be the ask of Bibi Netanyahu as it pertains to Gaza today? Is he going to ask President Trump, let's take out Hamas once and for all? Will that be the move?
Correct. Hamas cannot remain in power in Gaza in any configuration. This is the red line as far as Israel is concerned.
Pivoting now to the talks between Zelensky and President Trump. We've all been watching the images out of Mar-a-Lago in the last 24 hours. The president had this to say after that bilateral meeting yesterday.
So if it went really well, maybe a few weeks, and if it went poorly longer, and if it went really poorly, it's not going to happen. That would be a shame. There's that chance also. It's possible it doesn't happen. But, in a few weeks, we will know one way or the other, I think. But if it went really well, but it could also go poorly. I mean, we could have something where one item that you're not thinking about is a big item breaks it up. Look, it's been a very difficult negotiation, very detailed.
So the president said they are close, but he said there's about 5% left to negotiate. Those were his words. Those issues that make up that 5% are pretty thorny.
Correct. The secret in any diplomatic negotiations is to achieve a situation where we call in diplomacy win-win. So both leaders, President Zelensky and President Putin, can go back to their countries and say, look what I've achieved for us. And the key is to make sure that the Ukrainians are able to present an achievement. I would assume the security arrangements vis-a-vis the United States and vis-a-vis Europe. And Russia would need to present an achievement, meaning guarantees that the presence of a pro-American entity on its border will not pose a threat. And so I think it's achievable. I know because I've heard President Zelensky myself expressing optimism. Let us hope that this really incomprehensible suffering will come to an end very, very soon.
Yeah, we know that the Russian tanker was taken out overnight. Meanwhile, Kyiv was hit by some of the heaviest overnight attacks in months. This does not feel, Ambassador, like a war winding down, that's winding down.
Well, the war entered a very dangerous phase of fatigue, meaning it's like in a boxing match when the two sides are hitting each other, low intensity bleeding of both sides. It's not good for them. It's not good for world economy. It's not good for world stability.
All of it really comes down, does it not, to whether Russia is going to make a deal? Are they going to agree to any deal at all? And at issue is, we're sharing a map on the screen, the Donetsk region, Donbass region. Are they going to give it up? And then the promise of European security forces backed up potentially by American forces. Those are deal breakers, always have been for Russia.
Correct. And I believe that President Trump has the answer to the question whether Putin would be willing to show some flexibility on this issue to end the war.
Let's talk very quickly about what happens if, in fact, peace is finally achieved. Reconstruction of Ukraine. President Trump has said that he discussed that possibility with Vladimir Putin during that phone call, and that they would take part in some kind of reconstruction. Let's listen to this.
They're going to be helping. Russia's going to be helping. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. Once, it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the president, President Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding, including supplying energy, electricity, and other things at very low prices. So a lot of good things came out of that call today.
It's the first time I've heard of that, Ambassador. Russia would help Ukraine rebuild?
Well, it's in their interest. If they're sophisticated diplomatically, they will understand that. But I think that the entire European continent and the United States, the entire West, will be standing ready to help Ukraine rebuild, because Ukraine is an important actor in the international arena. And it's in the best of our interest to see them succeeding very quickly.
Former Israeli Consul General Ido Aharoni, really appreciate your time, sir. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.